Well, the Borough of Chester actually evolved or came to fruition in 1930, April, when the borough seceded from the original township. They originally seceded over water and road problems. Since that time, we've grown to a population of approximately 1,400 people. We're about 1,000 acres, 1.6 square miles. In reality, I guess Chester, the Borough of Chester, is really the southwestern shopping hub of Morris County. There's a lot of stores here, a lot of antique stores, a lot of people all over from Washington Township, Chester Township, some from Mendham, do come down to Chester shopping. Personally, what do I like about the Borough of Chester? Well, I moved here 23 years ago because it was a nice, historic, quaint town. It was out of the realm of all the hubbub of New York City life. It's in western Morris County. It's a beautiful rural area. You can walk downtown. We have a nice business section. We have a nice school system, one of the best that we could have in the state. And the people. In my time I've lived here, I've worked on with the PAA in soccer and basketball. I've worked on Boy Scouts. And like I said, I had a lot of other civic activities that I've worked with, and the people were fun to work with. They're nice people to work with, and it's just a nice rural community to live in. Well, right now, I guess many people are aware, the Borough and Township of Chester have many shared services. And some of these are our school system, which is one of the finest in the state. We share services for the youth with respect to Boy Scouts and PAA in sponsoring football, basketball. We have Little League for baseball. We also have shared services in respect to the library. Another item we have shared services with is with the fire company and the rescue squad. Actually, the fire company, it's their 75th year. They just held this past July a 75th anniversary parade, and I believe it's October 21st is their actual 75th anniversary. And for 75 years, the fire company has provided both the Borough and the Chester with excellent service, as did the rescue squad. The craft fair is run by the historic Chester Business Association. It is a major fundraiser for them. Through this fair, they raise a lot of money to continue their advertising through the year. But the historic Chester Business Association also uses this for donations to the school and to the other groups in town. They do make donations and do help out a lot in that respect. The craft fair is going to be held actually this Saturday and Sunday. It's September 7th and 8th. It'll be at the Municipal Building in the Borough. It is the prime location, but throughout the streets of the Borough, they will have vendors there. Also at this craft fair, some of the volunteer organizations in town will also be selling food. Boy Scouts will be selling soda. The Community Presbyterian Church will be selling food. The fire company will have a booth, I believe, for food also. So in addition to the Historic Business Association, it also becomes a major fundraiser for some of the volunteer groups within the borough, and everybody should really come out and support this.
The historian for Chester Borough. To give you a little history of the borough, it was settled, or the entire area of Chester was settled in the early 1700s by mainly people from Long Island. Some were Congregationalists and some were Presbyterian. That's one reason we have both a very old established church, both Presbyterian and Congregationalists in Chester Borough. At that time, this area was part of Roxbury Township. It developed as a village with mills and little industries, and later on in the 18th century, the township was formed. Chester Township broke away from Roxbury Township. That was in 1799. It continued to grow, both the borough and the borough area and the township, but the actual borough as a municipality did not form until 1930. That was a time when the residents wanted to put in some improvements in the town, one of which was water service. That was at a time when Route 206 was extended through the borough and it became more of a commercial center. Later, we're going to be visiting a few sites that'll give you a better idea of how the borough was developed. We're here at Rockefeller Center. That's Rockefeller Center in Chester Borough. Standing with me is Len Taylor of the Chester Historical Society, who's going to tell you a little bit more about this site. Len?
Thanks, Jim. This building here has been a post office. It's been a card shop. Been a number of things over the years. It was recently moved from a location down by the firehouse to where it is now in order to save it from demolition. It was donated by the owner and moved by the Chester Historical Society, who funded the foundation for the building. Jim, let's move on to the public house and see what's going on down there.
Sounds good. Behind me is the Chester Public House Restaurant and Inn. It's well known to visitors of Chester who come here for a dinner or lunch. It has quite a history. It's become the focal point of the borough, one of the more recognized historic buildings. It was built in 1810 by a Mr. Drake. At that time, the road, Main Street, was the Washington Turnpike, which connected points in eastern New Jersey out to Pennsylvania. It's been known by several names: the Drake House, the Brick Hotel, and more recently, in its last improvement, is known as the Chester Public House.
I think one of the things that we need to mention, Jim, is that the place started as a stagecoach stop, mostly for drovers moving their herds from Pennsylvania east into Newark and Hoboken, that sort of thing. And in its recent history being the early part of this century, it was a school for girls for some time, and then back into a restaurant again. Right around the corner from the public house here, Jim, is the Congregational Church, which is one of our first churches. Let's go take a look at that.
Okay.
We're here at the Congregational Church, which we just arrived at. This building here was built in 1856. However, there were several earlier structures, the earliest being 1747. The Congregationals came to Chester up until around 1740, just before they built their first church very close to this site. Jim, what else can you tell us about it?
Well, I understand as I mentioned before, a good many of them came in groups from Southold, Long Island, and as land sales were being promoted here in New Jersey. Another feature of this site is the cemetery, which shows the markers for many of those early settlers, some of them referring to the Southold, Long Island roots or origin.
Okay, now Jim's going to take you down to the old factory building in town and to the Drake residence where Zephaniah Drake, the hotel owner, lived.
Very good. It was built in the early 1800s and has since been changed in its architecture. For many years, it's been used for a number of manufacturing endeavors. One was to manufacture wagons and threshers and wagon wheels, and then smaller products later on. Presently, it's used as stores and as apartments on the second floor. It has a very interesting architecture to it. You can see some of the changes that have happened over the years, such as the bay windows being added to the second floor residence and the porch or the portico with the Doric columns added around 1900 or 1910. I think the overhang and the sidewalk makes a very interesting streetscape. The borough, about over the past 10 or 15 years, has been installing the brick sidewalks that have added greatly to the convenience of the public to have better access to the shops. From here, we're going to move down a couple of buildings to the Drake House, which is now used as a real estate office, but had been the residence for Zephaniah Drake, the owner of the hotel. We're at the site now of the Drake House. This is a residence that was built probably in the very early 1800s. Most notable about it is the horizontal board siding, which was exposed and preserved on the most recent renovation of the house. Another noteworthy point about it is the porch entrance, also typical in the Federal or Greek Revival style. The borough has been fortunate to have the help of the Historical Society and their members in giving advice on architectural preservation and the preservation of our heritage in Chester Borough as well as Chester Township. Many of the things you've seen today have been the result of improvements such as the sidewalk, the shade trees, the general sidewalk and streetscape of the borough. Also, architectural advice has been given to the planning board in order to renovate these buildings in such a way that we retain the original architectural features, so important in maintaining a Main Street business district.
Divided almost equally with between residents and commercial businesses. We have 300 businesses in town, commercial establishments, which is quite a lot for a 1.5 square town. Most of our calls are service-orientated type calls. Deal a lot with motor vehicle accidents, lockouts, and we deal with everything from serious to if somebody's plumbing breaks in the middle of the night, we take care of that, or make arrangements to take care of it. And basically, we handle anything that someone else can't do. We usually end up doing and trying to take care of business for them. The police department is small. We have 8 regular police officers. They're all male. We have a secretary who also stands in as a matron. We have 2 Class 2 specials on the police department.
Please, see the chief.
We contract our dispatching and communication services out, so that frees up our officers for patrol work and investigative duties and so on. Well, I was a police officer. I've been in police work for almost 22 years. I was in Greenbrook Township in Somerset County prior to coming to Chester in 1986. And 4.5 years ago, I was promoted to chief of the Borough Police. Being the chief of a small department has its advantages and disadvantages, but the advantages really totally outweigh the disadvantages. I enjoy the ability to work with my officers and the public in general on a day-to-day basis without getting tied up in the bureaucracies and the red tapes that probably a lot of bigger departments have to endure. It's just that it gives me a hands-on approach to almost everything that occurs here, and I like that.
My name is Debbie Wolf. I'm president of the Chester Borough Recreation Commission. The commission is made up of 7 volunteer members, and our responsibility in the town is to oversee the 3 parks. We have Municipal Field, which has the gazebo and a Babe Ruth field. And we have another park on Collis Lane, which has a Little League field and a play structure. And then we have Grove Street Park, which is a Green Acres Park, which houses a tennis court, playground, basketball courts, and a volleyball court. During the summer, we run concerts here in the park at the gazebo. We've had several good outings for the concerts, and we plan to have more concerts next year. We're hoping to have 2 per month starting in June. And then we also plan to try and have a Chester picnic day for the borough and the residents, and we also plan to try and start having summer activities for the children over at Grove Street Park, try to have some summer programs for them, as well as some adult outings during the year. The Recreation Department, in conjunction with the Teen Steering Committee, is working on starting a teen center. We're currently housed in the Williamson building, but we'll soon be moving out with hopes of purchasing some property to open a teen center, put in a skateboarding park area for the kids, and have a place where they can go and socialize and play games and have some fun. We have a recreation phone number. It's 908-879-5361, extension number 8, and people can call to inquire about what's happening in town. We do put messages out telling what's happening, what events are going on, and if they have questions, someone from Recreation will get back to them and help them out.
I've been an officer for 7 years. You start off as second assistant chief, 2 years, first assistant chief, 2 years, deputy chief, 2 years, and chief for 2 years. Companionship. The guys, you know, when that whistle blows, this place pulls together. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Everybody works together. And like I say, this is volunteerism in general. I love doing it. It's and I love serving the community.
Borough Field someplace.
We were established in 1921, this being our 75th anniversary year. We cover actually both the borough and the township. Comprises about 32 square miles approximately. Running about 200 calls a year. Anything from a smoke or CO alarm to actual working structure with flames showing. I'll say the structure fires are few and far between. We like to attribute that a little bit towards our fire prevention program. We have an open house here a Saturday in October normally, and we set up a display and make the public aware of what goes on here, what training's involved here. This enlightens them a little bit. You know, everybody may have their differences in that, and everybody's got a different form of opinion. That's what makes an organization. When that whistle blows, though, everybody's here for one person, but the person making the call. And they become one unit, and that's what makes this a great organization in my mind. Well, I've been an officer in the fire company for 7 years this year. 2 years as second assistant, 2 years as first assistant, and 2 years as deputy chief. This is my first year as chief. What do I like about it? You know, I used the analogy one time, a fire company's like a jigsaw puzzle. People are basically those pieces, and you put those pieces together, and that's what makes this organization. It's nice to be able to work with everybody and make them work together. And like I said before, you know, when that whistle blows, everybody becomes one. It's one unit, and it's a good feeling.
I've been captain since January 1st of this year, and I've been a member of the squad for 13 years. And probably the best thing I found about it is being able to help people. We cover Chester Borough and Chester Township, which encompasses an area of approximately 30 square miles. All of our members are volunteer. The training requirements, our training requirements are they have to be EMTs, and we just recently went to an emergency responder program, it's basically one step lower in the level of training, but they can basically do the same thing. Probably our most typical calls are heart attacks or chest pain calls and motor vehicle accidents. We just got a new ambulance, which was partially funded by the Chester Lions Club. The Chester Lions Club is a very dear friend of ours, and we appreciate their help very much. If it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't have some of the equipment that we do have today.
I like it because it's like country-like, kind of a lot of trees. I was able to go apple picking. We got about 20 pounds of them.
I passed through here a few times and I've never had a chance to stop it. I've always wanted to come down this main road here with all the antique stores. That's something that I enjoy a lot. I like looking at the past, and also every now and then I find things for my collection of Civil Air Patrol historical items. I'm the national historian for the Civil Air Patrol, and you never know what you're going to find in a place like this.
I like the animal place down the road, and there's a lot of good antiques, good toy stores for little kids, and it's fun just to walk around and see what they have.
My family is from Woodbridge. I live in Louisiana, and we love coming up to Chester for all the nice stores that they have here, and shopping. We collect a lot of things from the arts and crafts stores here and have lunch. It makes a nice day to come up here for the day.
Small town, and the people are very friendly, and it's just very charming. It's nice.
I like the shops. I own one, and it's fun. It's a good place to come on the weekends.
I like how they have the things outside, so you can look at them outside or go inside, and how they have a lot of old antiques that you wouldn't find in most places, and how it's, you know, you get to walk outside, have a cool breeze, and then maybe go inside and find something you like.
I like the quaintness of the town. All these little shops are easy walking distance. It's a nice way to stroll my son around and get out at the same time. The shops are adorable. They have beautiful quilts and, you know, wooden treasures and lots of lovely things. It's just a fun way to spend a day, really nice way to spend a day.
I think one of the best things about Chester is the shopping, and there are just so many different things to do. We've been to the mill, and I think this is one of the places that you'll really find the most unusual gifts to buy for people. It's just a real fun city.
The shopping, the fact that my son lives right up the road, and we're going to go have tea. We love the public house to eat outdoors. It's very quaint. It's very clean. I love the crafts. I really feel like I'm in America now. I mean, in Brooklyn, it's like such a potpourri of people, and here it's just so
Well, so far I like it very much. I only arrived here in time for lunch at the public house, and it was delightful.
I think I like the town itself the most because I love the antiques. It's close to home. I live in Livingston, so it's nice. I like to come here when we can, especially around Christmas and Halloween.
I love the Borough of Chester. I've been coming up here every fall, particularly, since my children have been small. I lived in Essex County, and now I live in Morris County, but we still make our trips to Chester.
Chester is a great place to come to for eating, for shopping, and just for enjoying downtown Chester.
It's great. It really is.
Come to shove your face and shop. Bye-bye.
Bye.